Hello everybody and welcome back to another Path of Exile 1 video. Today we're going to be doing the final build update for the Ignite Eviscerate Elementalist. The character is now level 100 and I have more than 100 hours played, so I feel pretty comfortable telling you about the good, the bad, and the ugly for this build. Let's start with the good. The character feels incredible to play. We have good clear, damage, and survivability, and this allows us to do almost all the content the game has to offer. We've killed Ubers, we've done T16 juiced mapping, and we've also managed to full clear the simulacrum in under 15 minutes. The best part is that every single upgrade is going to make a tangible difference in your character's power. So what I mean by that is every upgrade you make, you will feel faster, feel tankier, and feel less janky, unlike some of the other builds I've played where upgrades only makes that POB number go up. Now let's talk about the bad. The build is quite expensive. We're currently running a Mageblood setup, and this gives us most of our character's armor and speed. This is the upgrade that takes you from feeling not squishy to being a literal tank, and we also get a ton of mobility in the process. With that said, our damage does go down compared to Deity and Dawn, so if you're looking just to hit dot cap and call it a day, you actually want to go for the budget route instead of farming out a Mageblood. The rest of the gear is surprisingly affordable. Everything except the Forbidden Flesh, Forbidden Flame for Vile Bastion. For some reason, this combo is going for almost a mirror at the time of making this video. And no, I don't have the jewels. I'm more of a Hundo Divvy Andy than I am a hey guys Mirror Blaster. Moving on, let's talk ugly. At the end of the day, this is still a retaliation build. Our character needs to get hit in order to deal damage. This means that Uber bosses in particular are going to attack too slow, and they're going to have too many eye phases for our character to feel good. So even though you can kill them, whether or not you should kill them with this character is a different question entirely. Alright, even if we get dot cap, which is not that hard to do, we're going to feel like we deal a third of that damage once you factor in waiting around to get hit and having less uptime. This isn't a problem in mapping, so if you're looking for a good mapper, by all means, the build still claps, but if you want a bosser, I'm going to suggest you to swap into a different build and play something else. Also, honorable mention to inclines. Apparently there's a bug with Eviscerate where you cannot hit enemies on slopes and hills. Guess what league mechanic has a bunch of slopes and hills? Hopefully. And we are now live in the game. Let's open up the character sheet. We are level 100. We have almost 11,000 maximum energy shield, a little bit higher actually. And if we do a slash blade, we have played for 6 days, 6 hours, and 20 minutes. If you want to see the state of my stash, here is what it looks like. We have 2 Divines and 33 Chaos Orbs to my name. No, I'm not hiding any of my currency anywhere. I've spent all of the currency I've earned right into the build. Okay, we have a lot of upgrades here to talk about, so let's do just that. So as I mentioned, we are now a Chaos Inoculation character. That means we have 1 life, we are immune to Chaos damage, and we have a ton of energy shield instead. Okay, this is a swap we made at the very end from Incandescent Heart into a rare energy shield chestplate, and then once you have that, you can put on Ephemeral Edge, or you can even do it with Incandescent Heart. You just have 6k energy shield instead of the 11k that I have now. Okay, so why make this swap? Well, first of all, more energy shield is always a good thing because that means our EHP is higher. Okay, EHP higher means more defenses, means you're more tanky. That's all easy enough to understand. Okay, when you put in Ephemeral Edge, this unique sword makes it so that your attacks with your weapon have added maximum lightning damage equal to 15% of your energy shield. This means we're going to be able to scale our damage and defenses by stacking energy shield, and that's why we make the transition. Right, this is a ridiculous amount of damage. If I hover over my Eviscerate, you'll see that our minimum on the scale is 52 lightning damage, and the maximum is almost 500k. Okay, and this is not factoring in the Ignite DPS. You'll have to do that in POB because the in-game tooltip can't calculate that all that well. Another thing we did once we swapped into this setup is we put on the volatility support. I believe we removed deadly ailments in order to do this. This support gem makes it so you have more maximum attack damage and less minimum attack damage. That means your floor is lower and your ceiling is higher. While Ephemeral Edge makes it so you have a very high ceiling and it doesn't affect the floor at all. So that's why we have such a high damage range. Okay, so this is a really good combo you want to use. Stack ES, put on Ephemeral Edge, use Volatility, you will be dealing tons of damage. Going back to the other gear pieces, okay, we have our thick energy shield chest. You can craft this using recombinators or buy something like this from someone for roughly 20 divines. Okay, we have a bespoke crafted Paladin gloves with the incursion damage resistance modifier. I'll kind of go over how to craft this later, but basically it is a pair of armor ES gloves with lots of armor, lots of ES. It has resistances, and it has a little bit of dexterity, which we need to use items on our build. Right, our boots is going to be a rare pair of boots. This was done using recombinators and then Eldritch currency. So you want to recombine the tier 1 armor and energy shield modifiers onto the boots. Then you benchcraft the movement speed, and then you use Eldritch Chaos Orbs to fix your suffixes. Pretty easy craft, made even easier with the All Flame League mechanic. Right, I don't know if I talked about the chest yet, but this is a thick energy shield chest that you can make using recombinators. This one's a little bit more tricky to do. If you don't have any experience making this item with recom, you can buy one instead. You basically go to the market, and then you're going to armor filter and type in 1200, and you'll see that you can get something like I have for about 14 divines, okay? You might have to fix the suffixes yourself with Eldritch crafting, but that's a lot easier to do than recombinating for 3 prefixes. Next up, I want to talk about the helm that I'm using. This is something I'm quite proud of. This is a Blizzard Crown, which is a item base you get from the Ritual League mechanic. It adds cold damage to your character, and because we're using Shaper of Flames, that cold damage is going to factor into our ignite damage, so we get a damage mod in our implicit. Okay, this item is incompatible with Eldritch currency. Please do not use Eldritch Ichors or Embers on this item. It'll brick it, and you will have a useless item instead. Right, so how did I craft this? I used the Fracturing Fossil method. You get a 3-socket resonator, you put Dense Fossil, Fracturing Fossil, and then Sanctified Fossil, and then you use the All Flame crafting to try and fracture one of the energy shield mods. Once you have an energy shield mod, you can use Dense Fossil crafting until you get a second evasion and energy shield mod, and then you also want to pair it with a decent suffix. In this case, I have the energy shield recharge rate mod. Then you do a multi-mod craft. You need a open prefix to add armor, and then you also can add a resistances or attribute of your choice for the suffix. Okay, so that's how you craft this item. With the rares out of the way, let's talk about uniques. We are using Ashes of the Stars. You want 30% the quality of all skill gems on this, and you want to anoint it with Whispers of Doom. Whispers of Doom is going to give us an additional curse, giving us more damage. Okay, for our Berek's Respite, we have upgraded to a double corrupted version. This makes it so bleeding cannot be inflicted on us. Alright, bleeding is a dot that is bad and you don't have a life flask to remove it, so you want some form of mitigation for that. So do that with your corrupted implicits, and if you can find one with Malevolence or Discipline increased mana reservation efficiency, I would recommend you to do that so we can run more auras in the build. The other ring is going to be Polaric Devastation. I don't know if I had this in the previous update video because it was expensive, but this makes it so that enemies are covered in ash when you ignite them. Ash makes them take increased damage from fire, so this is just a DPS upgrade for our character. I guess you can corrupt it if you want, but this is pretty expensive, so do it at your own risk. And last but not least, we have the Aegis Aurora. This is a volatile Vol-orbed version I bought for 50 divines. It has much better stats than the regular version, but the regular version is only worth a couple of chaos, and that is going to be good enough for the build. Okay, if you want to min-max like I did, get the volatile Vol-orbed version. More importantly, you want the 6% to maximum cold rest if you're using Mageblood, because that is going to let us hit 90% resistances with the Melding of Flesh setup I'll talk about later. Speaking of which, time to address the elephant in the room. This is the Mageblood I have farmed. I believe I paid like 220 divs for it, maybe around a week ago. I think I posted a community post when I got it, not sure. Mageblood is going to make it so that your leftmost utility flasks are always active. So let's look at our flasks. We have a Bismuth flask, a Sapphire flask, a Quicksilver flask, and a Granite flask. Okay, this is giving us resistances, this is giving us cold maximum resistances, this is giving us mobility, and this is giving us armor, right? The prefix pool for all of these flasks is going to be increased effect, reduced duration. Then you want to use an enkindling orb to get increased effect as well. 70% is as high as you can go. And then the suffix pool is a shared pool amongst the flasks, so you don't need any specific combinations. You just need the following mods. You want chance to avoid being shocked, chance to avoid being stunned, you want additional elemental resistances, and you want increased armor during effect. Then we have the Prismatic Tincture. I've put some quality on it and gotten higher rolls. This one has increased effect prefix, and we also have a damage over time multiplier with melee weapon attacks. Okay, so this is a lot of damage. Use this against bosses, tanky rares. Anytime you need a little extra oomph, turn that on and you will feel good. Alright, now I briefly mentioned at the start of the video that Mageblood is really to make the character feel smoother. If you want to hit dot cap, if you want to do some sort of bossing, you would rather use Daedian Dawn instead. So I'm going to quickly show you the belt I was using before. Okay, Daedian Dawn makes it so that your ignites with attacks deal damage faster. You will have less mobility, you will be less tanky, but you will hit dot cap that much faster with that modifier on the belt. Before we move on from the gearing section, I should talk about Eldritch Implicits. So we have Ignite Proliferation and Fire Exposure on hit for our gloves. Then we have increased Golem effect for stone golems, and Ignites deal damage faster on the boots. Our chest, this is brand new. We have increased effect of buffs granted by your golems, and we also have 12% of physical damage from hits taken as chaos damage. This is just giving you a higher phys max hit. It's not necessary. You could get some more damage instead if you want. It really depends on what kind of content you were doing. And one more thing I forgot to mention, guys, we have a little bit of an int problem. Not the first time I've heard that. So make sure to get the reduced attribute requirements or a high intelligence roll on your Twilight Regalia. Otherwise, you cannot use it. You'll see here that the base item costs like 290 intelligence to use. We only have 200, so make sure you do that or you can't use your thick ES rare chest. The next thing I want to talk about is our passive skill tree. So it should look quite a bit different from the life hybrid ES version we were running before. So our pathing is a little bit different. Let me remove some of these nodes. Okay, so our passive pathing is different. We took out some of the inefficient nodes here. We don't have any of the life nodes here. There were some life nodes here we removed. Okay, remember with CI, life doesn't do anything. So you're basically going around removing all your life nodes everywhere on the tree. Okay, and then we go back to the witch starting area. What did we get instead? Well, we ended up getting some energy shield nodes over here with energy shield mastery. We took these lightning nodes over here because Ephemeral Edge does a lot of lightning damage. Okay, that does in fact affect our ignite as well. And then we also put in a light of meaning here because this is a lot of passive points that we were taking in this area. Light of Meaning is going to make it so that each one of those nodes also give you 3% energy shield. So if I remove this, you're going to notice I lose almost 2k ES, and that's really bad. So make sure you get a Light of Meaning, toss it onto this area, and then you will feel a little bit tankier when you make the energy shield swap. Okay, we go on the right side over here to get Chaos Inoculation. I've seen some people manually take Whispers of Doom, but I would rather spend those 4 points elsewhere and get the Anoint instead. Okay, there's some Aura nodes here you can also take if you're having trouble meeting the Aura Reservation efficiency. Maybe you don't have that double corrupted ring I mentioned earlier. And then we're also taking Mana Mastery here for increased Mana Reservation efficiency of skills. And then our Cluster Jewel setup, I believe, is the same as before. It's a 8 passive large Cluster Jewel for increased attack damage while holding a shield. What we want is Prodigus Defense and Calamitous. So Prodigus Defense gives us 4% chance to block spell damage and 4% chance to block attack damage. The damage modifier there does not work on Ignite. Then we have Calamitous, which is going to give us increased elemental damage with attack skills. This does improve our Ignite DPS. Okay, for our unique jewel here, we're using Stormshroud combined with the Mageblood to get ailment immunity. If you're not using a Mageblood, don't use Stormshroud. Use another rare jewel here instead. And then we are also using Melding of the Flesh with the Mageblood setup to hit 90% maximum resistances. This jewel is going to reduce your overall elemental resistances, and then it's going to reduce your maximum LE res, but it makes it so that your elemental resistances are capped by your highest maximum elemental resistance instead. So if I remove this jewel, you'll see that we have above 200% resist on everything, and only our cold resistance is at 90%. Okay, fire is at 75, lightning is at 76, but as soon as I put this in, we're going to lose a bunch of those resists. We're still overcapped, and now everything is 90%. So that is a big defensive layer for elemental damage, and that's why this setup is popular. You want to make sure to get the minus 4% to all maximum LE res. The other one is not as important. If it's cheaper to get something with 80 minus res, do it. If you have money, get minus 70 res. Okay, pretty self-explanatory there. If that didn't make sense, leave a comment down below. I will give you a very thorough explanation of the Melding of the Flesh mechanic. Alright, as a Chaos Inoculation build, we now pick up the Zealot's Oath Keystone. This makes it so life regeneration is applied to Energy Shield instead. You get a lot of life regeneration from your Stone Golem. Now you're going to want these Aura nodes over here if you want to use 4 Auras like I am using. You also need to combine it with a level 4 Enlighten. I'll talk about that in the gem section. But with these nodes, the Mana Mastery over here, and Enlighten, you're going to be able to use the Auras you need. We're using Malevolence, we are using Haste, Discipline, and Tempest Shield, okay? If you don't like Haste, you can swap it out with Wrath for more damage or Determination for more defenses. Right, we also have some Runegrafts to talk about, so right there I put a Runegraft of the Fortress. This is going to reduce your attributes and increase your defenses. Defenses is your Energy Shield and Armor in this case, so really important Runegraft to have. And then we have a second Runegraft over here. This is also important for running your auras. This is Runegraft of Treachery. It gives you increased reservation efficiency of skills, but it makes your auras affect your enemies. This can be a bad thing depending on what auras you're running, but the ones that we are using is not a big deal. Worst case scenario, enemies are going to deal more dot damage because Malevolence is affecting them. So don't worry about that too much. In fact, if you're running Haste, having it applied to your enemies can be a good thing because it makes the build feel less janky. Right, going back to the left side over here, we have another jewel. This is our Watcher's Eye. We are using Haste, Discipline, and Malevolence Watcher's Eye. The most important node here is damage. Ailments you inflict deal damage faster while affected by Malevolence. There's also a second damage modifier on Malevolence you can get. This one's very expensive. It makes it so you have increased damage over time multiplier, okay? If you're going for a more budget setup like I am, get a second and third mod that affects the other auras you use. And what auras you use really depends on you and how you want to run your ship. Okay, if you want Wrath, get a Wrath node for more damage. If you want Determination, maybe you can get more armor for more defenses. Okay, lots of stuff you can do here. I went with Phasing while affected by Haste because I really like Phasing in my build and I didn't want to use a Quartz Flask. Alright, coming down here, we have a second cluster jewel setup. This is the exact same cluster jewel I showed you up before. It's going to give you Prodigus Defense and Calamitous, and then we have some rare jewels that are placeholders right now. These jewels give you increased fire damage over time multiplier, ailments deal damage faster, and a little bit of energy shield. They were quite expensive. I think I paid 10 divines for each of these. I think one is much better than the other, though, so I kind of scammed myself. But eventually what I want to do is remove these jewels, and we want to put in the Forbidden Flesh, Forbidden Flame setup in these two sockets. That is going to be our best in slot jewels for this cluster area, okay? And then last but not least, we needed one more jewel. This is our Corrupted Blood Cannot Be Inflicted on You jewel, as well as some block chants. And we also need +2 to maximum cold resistance to hit that 90% cold res cap. Okay, so that is our rare jewel here. I think there's actually a rare jewel here as well. This one is basically the same jewel, but without the corrupted modifier that makes you immune to corrupted blood. And we're almost done. The last thing I want to talk about is our Ascendancy. We have swapped out of Shaper of Storms. We are now instead using Heart of Destruction. The increased area of effect here is going to give you better clear speed in maps, and then when you get to the unique boss, it's going to give you a little bit more damage. If you're wondering why we don't use Shaper of Storms anymore, now that we are in Ephemeral Edge build, we deal a ton of lightning damage. You are going to naturally shock enemies when you crit them with Eviscerate. Remember, Eviscerate crits on every 4th attack. that is the Cruel Retort node over here. So we're going to shock enemies naturally. We don't need an Ascendancy to do that anymore. And that's it. That's the really scuffed reveal of the final passive tree. Last but not least, we have some tattoos here we are using for crit damage mitigation. Only do this if you have enough attributes to use your Twilight Regalia after you put your tattoos in, okay? So these are intellect nodes that have been changed into reduced extra damage from crits, and we have 100% enemy crit damage reduction, okay? So we're crit immune on this character. Very nice. Holy crap, how is there more stuff to talk about? Let's talk about gems. So our 6th link is Eviscerate, Unbound Ailments, Burning Damage Support, Damage on Full Life. This is something you can use once you swap into CI. And then we have Elemental Damage with attacks, and we have Volatility Support. Make sure to get Quality wherever you can. It's going to give you a bunch of damage. And the Twilight Regalia here is very hard to get red sockets on, so the best you can do is get a red socket for Eviscerate to get it a little bit more cooldown recovery rate. Everything else, if you can manage to get some sockets here, the right colors, more power to you. I unfortunately wasn't able to do that, and I'm almost out of chromatics. So one red socket is all you need for your chest. Okay, then we talk about our golems. You have Summon Chaos Golem, Summon Stone Golem, Summon Flame Golem, Summon Lightning Golem. None of this should be new. These have just been qualityed to give us buff effect, okay? So quality on gems is really the last thing we're doing here. Right, or as we already talked about, I'm running Haste for utility. It gives us speed and phasing. I'm using Enlighten, level 4. This is required to meet the mana reservation requirement on the build. Without Enlighten, you will have not enough mana to run your auras. You can see here that I have no mana to cast my skills, and that's a really bad place to be. So put this back on, and make sure you have some other mana efficiency node modifiers on your passive tree or your gear. Our next aura is Discipline. Once you swap into CI, you want Discipline. This is going to give you more defenses, more damage. Really nice. And then we are, of course, running Malevolence for increased damage over time. On our sword, we're using cast when damage taken Molten Shell for a little bit of a defensive layer, and we're also using Tempest Shield, so this is our 4th aura, I believe. It gives us spell block. You don't need quality on this. I don't know why I put it. I guess I just wanted to look cool in PoB. Okay, if you don't like the cast when damage taken setup, or you don't need it, you can actually remove it and put in Shield Charge with Momentum Support, and you're going to feel a lot more mobile than the Flame Dash setup that I have here. Okay, so consider giving that up if speed is the name of the game, and that is what you want to go for. Speaking of Flame Dash, we have it in a blue socket over here. Quality gives you increased cooldown recovery rate, so make sure you have that in the right color socket. Then we also have a new gem to the build that is Vol Smite. Vol Smite is a melee attack that is going to hit nearby enemies in a little lightning circle, okay? But most importantly, hitting them is going to give you added lightning damage. We're using the Vol Smite version that puts the tooltip off screen. Sorry about that. Vol Smite is a button you can press when you hit bosses to get even more lightning damage. Okay, so our single target rotation is we're going to hit our Prismatic Tincture, we're going to hit Vol Smite, and then we're going to put down Arcanist Brand and then hit him with an Eviscerate. They're going to melt, okay? So Vol Smite, really nice, really comfy to use. I thought it would be a little janky, but it's really not. It's actually smoother than Wave of Conviction. We no longer use Wave of Conviction in the build. We don't have the sockets for it. So Vol Smite, really nice setup. Use it, deal more damage, you'll feel good. And then last but not least, we have our Arcanist Brand set up here. This should be nothing new to you. We have a second curse tossed in. So we have Flammability, and then we have Elemental Weakness. Both of these are reducing enemy fire resistance, so please do not run Hexproof or enemies reduced curse effect on your maps. Your build will do less damage because we are a double curse setup. And then of course you have your Flame Surge, which is applying a portion of your Ignite as damage over time with Burning Ground. The quality in your curses are important because they give you increased Ignite duration, right? Because we are a high variance build. When you get a thick, juicy Ignite, you want it to last as long as possible. And last but not least, with the CI setup, we are now using Soul of Aurora. So we have stun immunity from our Mageblood, or you might have stun immunity from Vile Bastion. That means you can swap out a Brine King and into Soul of Aurora to reduce the damage you take from damage over time. Like I said, block only works on hits. It doesn't work against damage over time, so our character is most vulnerable to DOT effects. effects. Alright, and we are still using Soul of Aberrath for our minor Pantheon, and that's because Burning Ground is a dot effect that is going to decimate your character, and it is everywhere, so make sure you take this node to mitigate that from your maps. And that's it for this video, guys. I think the only thing left to talk about is further upgrades. Okay, all of this can be min-maxed to be a little bit better. You can fix the Eldritch Implicits so they're perfect. You can get Tier 1 affixes on everything. I think some of these I settled for Tier 2. You can get a 30% quality Twilight Regalia that is super expensive. You can get a volatile Vol-Orbed Ephemeral Edge, so you deal 16% of your ESS damage instead of 15. That's super nice as well. You get a Corruption on Polaric Devastation. Honestly, lots of stuff you could do to perfect the build. But at that point, I think you would be better off taking that currency and playing a different build. There are going to be much stronger builds in the mirror tier level, okay? Or if you just want to have fun, play something else, your currency might be better spent doing that instead. But at the end of the day, what do I think about this build? I think Ignite, Eviscerate, Elementalist is a 10 out of 10 build. Okay, fine, 9 out of 10. All right, I give it a -1 because at the end of the day, it is a retaliation skill. It does have uptime problems, but this has been my favorite build I've played in this game of all time. It's right up there with Ice Nova of Frostbolts. I really can't ask more of this. I guess GGG, please fix that incline bug. It'd be nice to be able to hit enemies on stairs and slopes. But that's it. That's the build, guys. I think I will get the Forbidden Flash, Forbidden Flame at some point during this league and maybe do a full build guide if you ever want to play this in the future. Of course, GGG will make changes. Elementalists might not even exist. Golems could get nerfed. I don't know. But I might make a full build guide Pox style for anybody who wants to play this character in the future. And with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed how this build turned out. It has been a blast to play. You know, maybe you can recommend it to your friend. Maybe you can try it out next league. A little word of mouth, little word of mouth. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like if you found this useful. Consider subscribing for more Path of Exile 1 content. And stay tuned for our next video. Bye!